Okay.
Yes, I am.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Lonnie. Sorry.
No problem. We're doing pretty well. I mean, we of course, just like we know and like you said, things aren't gonna always be easy. You know, we our biggest challenges are Hayden, I would think. I can't think of many other things that we really go through between the two of us. Other than our each other's quirks or ways that we are that sometimes is a little makes it a challenge. I don't mean in a negative way, just who we are, understanding each other as far as when we're talking to each other, and then it gets a little confusing sometimes. But um and that has to do with our own character, how we each speak or how we talk about things. But I think as far as the Hayden aspect, that causes challenges between us, of course, and we're trying to do everything we can to do things God's way, and we will pray about it and we will come up with ideas. I think as far as speaking for myself, I've definitely gotten frustrated in the past few weeks several times. I don't think I really got, irate or yelled or any of that. I've just gotten quiet, or just she can tell that I'm not happy. And that's just because, we talk, come up with a plan, and then either that plan gets changed. I didn't know about it. And then I step into a situation I see isn't going properly, or he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing, or Tristan, and I'll say something, you know, and then I get, well, my mom said, or well, Aunt James said,
Okay,
or
let me stop you really quick, Lonnie. Who's changing
mhm.
the plans?
Well, it would either be Jamie or Misty and Jamie talking, or they, you know, didn't do something that we discussed we were going to do. And then of course Hayden took full advantage of that, and then did what he's been doing, major things, and then when
Yeah.
I ask, well, how did that happen, this or that, well, that's totally my fault. I either told him he could, or I made a mistake and left my door open, or I had his phone and left my purse on the table. And then of course, he took it and then made a drug deal, or, stuff like that. And then we'll have a conversation about it and we'll talk, and she realizes where she made the mistake, or we discuss the fact that Misty is just not happy
Wait,
with
I
the
can't.
idea. I'm
Sorry, I
sorry,
couldn't hear you
you
there for
can't
a
hear me?
second, but you're back.
Oh, we've discussed we're going to do this, and your suggestion, we had already thought of that, and we're going to do it about having a police officer come.
Mhm.
Now she's all up in arms, Misty is, about doing that,
Okay,
and
stop. Why did you share that with her?
I didn't.
Okay. One of my rules of
I
thumb is the less you say, the better,
That's one of mine too.
because the more people know, the more things get misconstrued or gets out or plans get ruined or um yeah,
Other opinions come in, and
yeah, and then things start to get a little tumultuous. So I'm just curious what was the reason for sharing that
you
with
know,
her, because she doesn't sound like she sounds like an enabler more than she sounds like a mom. And that's just from what I've gathered from you guys.
yeah, and I concur, and that's the things that Jamie and I talk about. But she is living with us and she is his mom, and he is going to definitely go to her first, because he knows he'll get the results immediately that he wants, or he can use her as an excuse because she was asleep when he asked her, and basically brushed him off and was like, yeah, Hayden. So he goes with that and says, well, I had permission.
Do you
So
think she'd be willing to talk to me? Get all you
I
guys on the
don't
same
think
page?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I do.
She might, but she's not going to follow through with anything she says she's going to do. I don't think.
Well, that's where the
I think
accountability comes in with me following up with that type of stuff. So go ahead, Jamie.
I think she would, and I think that the thing is she thinks she is following through. She thinks that she is doing the right things. She thinks that she's just doing what she feels is best for Hayden, but that she has backed us up most of the time. And we actually just had a conversation today about this, and I had sent the conversation to Lonnie. My sister was at work, so she was sending me voice messages when she had some time, and I was replying back to her. And it is a a tough situation because she feels that, for example, I don't remember what day it was, but Hayden called my sister and asked her to come pick him up from school because he was having a really rough day emotionally, and he said he felt like he was going to have like a complete breakdown at school. This is not typical of Hayden. He does not usually ever want to come home from school. He's not I'm having like an emotional issue. He doesn't usually talk about his emotions like that. And that's not, like I said, it's just not typical of him. So she went and picked him up around 10:30, brought him home, and Lonnie and I were going to be doing some running around. So I had Hayden come in my room and talk to me about what was going on because we were concerned about leaving him at home alone, and we're considering having him come with us if he was not in a good place emotionally, because my sister was going to be having to go to work soon. So,
and the fact that he stole his phone that day and she found out about it, or stole his phone, an old phone, because she heard his phone going off. So that was supposed to be in the works to find out how he did that or when.
Yeah, which I did do. And so Misty came into my bedroom with Hayden. I asked her to come in so she could hear me have the whole conversation with Hayden. And then Lonnie came into the room, and Misty really didn't like the way that Lonnie was talking to Hayden.
Didn't like the fact that I came in to begin with, made it very apparent. And
Yes.
Then when I
That's
tried
true.
to get to the bottom line of something because he was being as vague as usual, she literally got upset and walked out. And I never, go ahead, Jamie, you can tell it too.
So, Lonnie felt like he was being as patient and kind as he could given the circumstances. Misty was very sensitive at the time about Hayden's feelings because he was saying that he felt really depressed and was having a really emotional day, and he just wanted to go lay down in his room and go to bed, basically, is what he was asking to do. Lonnie was like, well, I don't think that that's okay. I think you should come with me and Aunt Jamie. We are going to be running some errands and doing some stuff, and I don't want to just leave you here. And, in his defense, he did say in private to me and Misty, like, he just had this big episode in November. We know that he is constantly lying. We can't trust that he just says he just wants to go lay down and everything is cool. We don't know what's going on with him, So I was like, okay, Hayden will, because he looked right at Lonnie, and Lonnie was like, you need to tell us what's going on. And Hayden was like, I don't feel comfortable telling you, and I don't want to tell you why I'm upset, or why, whatever's on my mind. So
why I came home from school, because I said, you have to have a reason. I mean, you've only been in school for a couple hours today and you wanted to come home. I at least, or Aunt Jamie or your mom at least needs to be told what was wrong. And he's like, I'm not telling you. And I basically told you the gist. And I said, well, the gist that you gave is extremely vague.
He said he didn't feel good about himself.
It suggests that maybe you might try to do harm to yourself, and that's why I think you should go with us. And he was like, no, I'm not going. And he was very animate and shaking and balling up his fists. And so,
well,
go ahead.
I'm going to say, and I know it's tricky because you've got a very defiant teen, but he just got his way by demanding to you guys what he was going to do. And that's something we have to figure out how to combat, because that's essentially giving him the power. I'm home, not going with you. I don't care if you're my elders. I don't care if you're my guardians. I don't care if you're my parents. No. And see,
and he knows that we don't just take no for an answer. What actually ended up happening was Hayden stayed in the room with me. I said, Hayden, why don't you stay in Uncle Lonnie's going to take a shower. Your mom's getting ready for work. You need to at least talk to me and tell me what's happening.
Yeah.
And he did. He did confide in me. He did start tearing up, told me
Okay.
exactly what was happening. I
Way to
told
go.
him, listen, I said, given what you told me and that you were honest with me, I feel comfortable letting you stay home as long as you're hanging out with Tristan in his room. And I had a conversation with Tristan, told him Hayden's not in a great place emotionally. If you could be his support, you have your phone if you need to call me for anything, but just, not watch him essentially, but be there for him, support him. He's your cousin. You guys are like brothers. He doesn't want to go with us. I don't want to make him go. If you're not comfortable with that, Tris, then we can make him come. Tristan was cool with it. He stayed home. They had a great time together. Tristan said he confided in him, talked to him about some stuff. And it was actually a really good thing because
Good.
a couple of his friends that he was really concerned about, basically, to make a long story short, that he told me, he just kind of felt very invisible to his friends. And I think it's because I told him well, buddy, you are trying to do better. And the friend group that you chose is turning away from you now because you're not fun anymore, because you're not being the class clown and getting in trouble and willing to do A, B, C, D, E. And his friends that he really has grown close to aren't in a lot of his classes together. So hanging out with Tristan was able to get a hold of a couple of their mutual friends, and they had a really nice talk with Hayden about, if you just be yourself, we all really love you. We want you around, Hayden, et cetera, et cetera. So Hayden did end up feeling a lot better.
Yeah, that's a
that.
kid screaming for validation. Screaming for validation. And I told him when we were talking that it takes someone like anybody can follow the crowd. Anybody can do what everybody else is doing, but it takes someone strong to stand up and say, I'm not going to be like that. And they might turn their backs on you. I said, but then they're not your friends in the first place. If you won't do what they want you to do because they think you should, and you say no, you're going to take a stand. They're not your friends. So I might try to reiterate that tomorrow.
Yeah, and I'm glad of that because, what I felt was, hey, he did open up to us. He did tell me how he felt. He had a breakthrough with that. He asked to come home. He told us how he was feeling emotionally. He would have usually just dealt with that on his own, stayed through school, went and smoked pot, did something where he didn't come home until 8 o'clock at night at 13 years old. I mean, he's 14 now, but you know what I'm saying? That's what he would have done a year ago. So at least he did call and say, hey, I need to come home. I'm not feeling well. Came home. He did tell me, and he flat out sat here and told me, I said, Uncle Lonnie would be a great person for you to talk to about this, buddy. He would not have made you feel bad about yourself or done anything that you fear he would do if you would have confided in him about this. And he said, Aunt Jane, I just don't feel comfortable talking to Uncle Lonnie because I feel like every time I do, he either thinks I'm lying or he tells me that my feelings aren't that big of a deal, or I really don't have a reason to be depressed, or he doesn't believe me. And he's like, I just would rather not talk to Uncle Lonnie about my personal feelings.
I would encourage you guys to get together and look up some scriptures about who we are in Jesus, because I shared it with him. I've already shared one of them with him. Ephesians 2:10 says we're God's handiwork. And I told him, I said, I don't care what anybody else says about you. If God says it, that's final. So
exactly, that's true. Yeah, I love that.
You guys might want to look up some other scriptures about, we're uniquely and wonderfully made. He knew us since we were in the womb, and all of the things that he says about who we are to show Hayden how God thinks about him and get his mindset on God instead of all of these humans that are going to fail him.
That's a great idea. Just like building his confidence through God's eyes a little bit would be really helpful, I think.
Right. And be very emphatic about it. And I would definitely say, I don't care what everybody else says about you, because it doesn't matter. What they say does not matter. What God says is the final word, and that's it. And if he says it, it's a done deal. You're God's handiwork. End of story. That means you're pretty special.
Okay.
So why don't you guys get on that together?
Yeah, that's a great idea. I'm going to make a note of it. I don't think I need to, but I will just in case.
Yeah. So Lonnie, it sounds like to you, buddy, you're going to have to be a little patient and wait for him to come around to start sharing stuff with you. But quite frankly,
Well-
Tanya, you can jump in. Jamie sounds like she's doing a fantastic job with it.
Yep. Yep, handling it the best of her ability, definitely. You know, it is concerning, you know, that Lonnie has been in his life for so long and he will not give him a chance to be the dad figure
Figure.
that he's never had. So it's heartbreaking because it's like he's got such an opportunity there. And I know that
Yes.
teenagers and kids, they don't think they want the boundaries and the discipline and all of that, but they do. But it's like there's something keeping him from accepting it, and that, you know,
Absolutely.
there's a root cause there. I mean, I know he has a lot of root causes for a lot of things, but that, you know, I think a big huge thing is trying to figure out why there is that open wound almost when it comes to Lonnie, because until that aspect and that relationship can be
Repaired
fixed,
or some,
there's
yeah.
going to be issues till he's out of the house. Because
Yeah.
honestly, he has to be willing to, you know, and I have trust issues when it comes to men, father figures, dads, men, all of that. So I know what it's like to be in that position. It's like, well, I have to protect myself because men betrayed me, hurt me, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know the situation with his dad. I can't remember the story, his biological father, but it's, you would think he would have more issues with women with considering what his mom has done. So why does he have such an issue with Lonnie? So I would really, and I don't know how John wants to handle this, but I think that is a huge, huge thing that needs to be gotten to the root of, because Lonnie is a huge part of his life and a huge influence.
Yes.
And if he's shutting him out, yes, he's taken some of that in, Lonnie. I mean, he is definitely, whether you may see it or not, you may think I'm having no effect on him, I'm not influencing him at all, but you really are. However, it could just be so much better. So I would encourage that somehow us, his counselors, I don't know who he's still seeing outside of this situation, but it really needs to be something that can be handled so that not only can the relationship between Lonnie and Hayden be better, but that will definitely almost eliminate most of the problems between you all. So I don't know exactly how to get
I think I understand that I understand being here what Hayden's issue is with me, because he's made it blatantly clear. And essentially what it is in a nutshell,
Oh, we lost him.
Oh, we did.
Can't hear you, Lonnie.
Lost you, Lonnie.
Lost
Just like
you.
the other day, or just like when Jamie, the story that
Lonnie,
Jamie
Lonnie,
told you
Lonnie,
happened.
Lonnie,
When he
Lonnie,
came home with his mom.
Lonnie.
Hey.
1 second. Sorry, my headset.
Yeah,
We lost you after like your first sentence.
My headset does this every once in a while.
So rewind, go back to what you were saying. We didn't hear anything you said.
it
so.
essentially is.
Hold on 1 second.
Ooh.
1 second. All right.
What?
Mm-hmm.
He's always causing issues. My goodness.
I'm sorry. You guys think you're
Some people
talking
have to
about-
work, John Helton.
I have to call dispatch. That's why you can't hear me, because they keep interrupting it. Hold on.
Yeah, go ahead.
You do what you got to do, and we'll.
La 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 la.
I'm starting to get sleepy.
Are ya?
Thought you had coffee in there.
I do.
It's been, yeah, a long couple of weeks, I feel like, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I think it's, well, I don't know. I'm going to kind of back off of that for a second, but yeah, the kid's looking for validation. He doesn't trust anybody because everybody's abandoned him, or at least in his mind, everybody has abandoned him. And
Yep.
I have some ideas with Lonnie, but we'll see how, I want to hear what Lonnie says first.
Like while he's doing that, I didn't have it. I've had a dad, but he died when I was young, but he was older when I was born and didn't have much to do with us. And it for a girl, it leaves a void because that's how you're going to respond to men throughout your whole life, is the relationship you started with your dad. And I'm so thankful he has you, Jamie, to help. I think, and that's a big, huge reason I think he responds the way he does, even though his mom has not been what she needs to be. You have been that,
Yes.
saving grace for him, and he knows he can trust you no matter what. And it's just, I just really would love to see the relationship with him and Lonnie
Grow like
taking
that.
care of,
There's
mended and
nothing.
restored, because it is going to change the whole dynamic of this.
Absolutely.
There's a root cause that, we're gonna have to go back probably way back, to everything that's happened. But there's something that, and I'm sure, I know Lonnie it's just been difficult. So it's just, that's what's heavy on my heart right now, is the relationship with him and Lonnie, because it will change things for you all. So
I agree. And Jamie, also, we know that you have a heart for Hayden. There's no doubt about it. You just have to be guarded about being too easy, because you kind of want to protect that relationship. And that's another one of those difficult spots to be in, because you don't want to be too easy. But I'm going to reiterate it as sternly and as emphatically as I can. It is critical, as in fatal, that you and Lonnie stay unified.
Yeah,
That
absolutely
has to be priority, that you guys are unified that way, because the old divide and conquer.
Yeah.
Well, this one won't say yes. I'll go ask my other parent. Well, we can't. So you and Lonnie, that's why I think we talked about it a couple of weeks ago. Make sure you guys discuss everything, almost to where it's annoying, to make sure you're on the same page until you guys get into a groove, because it's going to take a unified marriage for you guys to help Hayden get to where he's going to go. And by the way,
Lonnie does a great job with that. He does a great job, like, staying diligent and on top of, just keeping me in line, as far as like, oh, James, it's 9:00. Tristan should be turning his stuff in, or, what happened with this or what happened with that. And I think our communication with that has been
great.
pretty great. So that's
because, as you know, Jamie, most men that, if not their biological child, it's not even your biological child, they would have ran, because men struggle with that, because it's such a tug of war. Even in our situation, we had a teenage daughter that wasn't quite like this, but it was a challenge, and it could have totally and almost tried to destroy us. And so I feel the empathy for the situation. And I give you kudos for what you've done for Hayden, but I give kudos to Lonnie for not giving up, even though he probably has wanted to. So you're doing great. You're on the right path. It's just, wish we could have met you all years ago,
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Anyways, go ahead, John. Lonnie's back, I think.
Great. Does that mean I can go now?
No.
Oh.
Lonnie, you were saying, I don't know if you remember your train of thought, but
basically the issue that Hayden has for Lonnie is.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so the issue that Hayden has with me is the fact that it's not the fact that I don't show him love. It's not the fact that it's not his reasoning when he says, I don't want to share with you because of this or because of that. It's because I hold him accountable. If you're going to say to me that the reasons why this happens and that happens and you do this and you do that is because you didn't remember, or because of whatever excuse you give. And I have told him from the beginning, I understand that you're going through that. I understand that you miss your mom. This is what he used to say years ago. I understand that this or this or this, but he is the type that will argue everything you say because he doesn't want to be accountable. If there's no accountability and no one is urging him to be accountable except for me, if he, like what I was going to say is the other day when he came home from school and I said to him, I go, you came home early from school and so we're, when you're going through these issues and what Aunt Jamie said to you, she asked you what was going on and you told her you didn't want to tell her. You didn't want to talk about it. Your exact answer was, I don't want to talk about it. I said, well, you don't have to share it. My exact words were, you don't have to share it with me, but you have to talk to someone because coming home from school because you feel like you don't like yourself and what we went through with you, that doesn't make things comfortable. We can't, we have to figure out what's going on. And the pressing issue is his mother was like, well, I went and got you and I got to go to work and your Aunt Jamie has to go to work. So, and what I'm thinking is there's things I had to do that day. And now you're either going to have to come with me or I can't do it. Plus Aunt Jamie and I were on the way out the door to go run errands. I'm sorry. Dispatch is calling me again.
Bless his
Is
heart.
that a
He's
weird-
trying so hard. Gotta love work.
I know he's had a weird day at work today. He typically would be done a while ago, but
That's not a problem. Where am I going?
Sorry
I
about
mean,
that.
my wife is home. I know. Anyway, go ahead, Lonnie.
So, where was I? So I'm like, you have to let somebody know something and you have to talk to them and you have to let us know what's going on. We have to get to the bottom of this because we're constantly having to do these things. And his mother would interject and say, well, I don't see anything wrong. And all he wants to do is spend time by himself and do this and do that. And I go, yes, but spending time by himself right now is not the greatest thing. He just gave threats that he was going to, commit suicide. We just spent so long in the hospital with him. I missed work because of it, and now everything we had planned for the day has changed. And you went and picked him up from school, brought him home, and now it's like, here, boom, you can have him, and I gotta go.
Yeah.
So partly I'm kind of irritated with her, and at the same time, I've got this nephew that I love, and you gotta have an answer, some type of answer. We have to be able to discuss this and get down to the bottom of it so we can figure out what to do from here. But if you're constantly going to give vague answers and just be like, oh, no, it's not a big deal. And I told you I just felt like coming home and that's it. These things aren't going to work.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Lonnie, I've got a question for you. Actually, I've got a comment to make because I'm listening to you and you may have already done this. I have a feeling you may have.
Mhm.
Every time I've dealt with Hayden, every single time, it's almost like pulling teeth, trying to get him to talk, which is okay. I don't necessarily mind that. However, there is one thing. Every time I ask him about it or we talk about it, the kid lights up, gets excited. He's enthusiastic. He is all about it. And that's weightlifting. When he told me he beat his new deadlift, I'm like, really? I get excited with him. He's like, yeah. And I want to get to this point. And I want to get to this point. My question, Lonnie, do you work out?
Yes, I do. When I'm, basically I don't really have the time. I have to make a whole lot of time.
Well, let me say this. In this, I'm hoping this is God dropping this on me. Why don't you make an effort to quote unquote submit to Hayden and approach him with that very thing that lights his eyes up and say, Hayden, You know, I've been noticing, have you ever, well, if you've been noticing him working out, whatever, something to do with working out, and say, because what he told me was the reason he beat his deadlift max was because somebody showed him a new technique. Once they showed it to him, he got it. And I asked him, I said, what life lesson did you learn from that? He said, well, I listened. I said, and when you listen to somebody who knew what they were talking about, you did it. What happened? Well, I got my max. I said, okay. What did you learn from that? Maybe.
Yeah, that's great, John.
Well, maybe you could approach him and tell, I don't know. I'm not saying like that's never going to be an option, but just say, Hayden, I'm looking at maybe trying to increase my deadlift. Has anybody showed you any techniques or anything that might be able to help me? Let him do something he's passionate about to teach you how to do it. And then you do it, and then you turn around and tell him like, dude, that was awesome. What a difference that made. Anything like that to start building a relationship, because what you're doing is you're reaching him exactly where he is in the positive side of life. Because with him, there's not a much positive going on as far as I've talked to him. But that weightlifting thing, his voice gets louder, he gets more animated. And then when we're done talking about it, it's back to the.
Buddy,
What do you think, Lonnie?
come here.
Yeah, I could do
Buddy,
that.
kill me.
I think that might be a baby step to reestablishing or at least building a relationship between you two. And then, I mean, literally, Lonnie, before you go to him, pray. Let God lead you, because the Bible says that the Spirit will teach you at that time what to say. Let the Spirit lead you, not Lonnie lead you. Walk in there and say, and if he says no, say, okay, well, if you change your mind, please let me know, because I'm interested in these deadlifts or whatever. That's something I think when you relate to him with the same interest, and then maybe at some point you guys start heading to the gym together, stop and grabbing some McDonald's on the way back home or on the way there, something. I'm just,
Right.
I think because he's got walls up. Well, how do you get inside those walls? Find out what's interesting to him, which is
Chips
weightlifting.
away at him. Yep.
Yep.
Mhm.
What do you think, Lonnie?
Yeah, I could try that.
Yeah. And if he says
And
no,
it may not feel very natural at first, because you're probably like, oh boy,
Yep.
and it's sometimes we do have to meet them where they are so that we can get them to where they want to be. Because I mean, I've dealt with this with my daughter. It was the hardest time of my life. And I never knew if I was going to find her in a safe. I never know if I was going to find her safe. She would leave school. She'd go to her dad, wouldn't answer, be gone for hours. I would have to leave work and go check on her because she had cut herself, and I did not know if I was going to find her in a bad place. And it was horrible.
I'm sorry to hear
I've been
that.
through things in my life and that almost killed me, but nothing hurt me as bad as watching my baby hurt. And so I know exactly how you all are feeling, and she would not talk to me. She would get mad at me, and she would not open up. And, it was hard. It was hard.
Well,
Yeah. Go ahead, John.
well, scripture that God just dropped on me is love covers a multitude of sin. And that agape love that we've talked about, and to reiterate it, is loving based on your character, not theirs, is how Christ overcame so much, because he didn't focus on who they were, what they were doing, aka us, but instead in action loved. And that's why I'm encouraging Lonnie to make the effort to reach Hayden where he is, because without a dad figure, Jesus is the great shepherd, right? What happens when the shepherd's removed? The wolves come and get the sheep.
Yep.
Yep.
And Lonnie, technically, scripturally, is the shepherd of that home.
Mm-hmm.
And so therefore, Lonnie needs to take the shepherd role, which has to be earned at this point from Hayden. So Hayden has a man to look up to. It might not be dad, but a dad figure, as Tanya said. So Lonnie, by example, Lonnie, example can lead that young man to being a godly man in down the road. And then Tristan, Hayden can use what
Hey.
he's going through now as
What are
a
you doing?
testimony. I'm talking to them. What are you doing? Yelling at me?
Tank's back here behind me digging in the carpet. I'm about to get him.
But yeah, I think that might be, that's not something I've really thought about because I'm trying to think of how you guys should navigate, make sure I was telling Jamie, Lonnie, that when you were so rudely when you were answering the phone, that it is imperative you guys stay unified. Those communication lines have to be open, work
Yep.
together as a unit. So there's no divide and conquer options. Now, so I think honestly, I'm actually satisfied. Tanya, I'm going to let you jump in. I'm satisfied where we are right now. I don't know that anything really needs to be discussed. I feel really comfortable where we are at this moment. For Jamie, I'm going to leave it up to you. And Lonnie, I want you to join in with Jamie, finding those scriptures, but that's going to be your role, Jamie, is to make sure it gets done, to find those scriptures that build up Hayden according to the word of God, because the Bible says his word will not return void.
Yeah.
So when it hits Hayden's ears, it's going to get in there. So
And it may, sorry, John.
That's okay. So you do the planting. Remember the Paul and Apollos thing in 1 Corinthians 3. That's a good chapter to read. It talks about roles. I'm assigning roles. I'm not God, but I'm assigning roles. Jamie, make sure that's done. Lonnie, your job this week is to find a way to get to Hayden and tell him you want to learn new techniques for weightlifting. The fact that you work out when you can is great because it doesn't look like a put on. You're going to walk up and say, man, I haven't worked out in a while. I'm thinking about doing some weightlifting and maybe some deadlifts or something. Has anybody taught you any techniques that you could show me? And go from there and see what happens. And we can revisit this next week. But I think those two things, you've got the spiritual war going on with the scriptures, and you've got the practical war going on with the weightlifting. Tanya, do you have anything? And then I want to hear your all's thoughts.
The only thing I have to say is, during that time period, I had to, and John watched me go through this, I had to take my hands off the wheel and I had to pray. And, she wasn't in my home anymore when a lot of this was going on. She had already moved to her dad's, but she was staying by herself pretty much there. But I had to trust God. I had to pray, and I had to put her in his hands because I was trying to control every bit of it, and I was making things worse in a lot of ways. I had to let her pretty much suffer some consequences, fall on her face, and just a lot of stuff had to happen. And I had to say, I cannot control. Let's say he says he's fine and you all leave him alone, and then he goes and does something wrong. I'm telling you, I would let him suffer the consequences about as hard as he can, because the worst thing you can do is to rescue him, protect him, not, bring the smack down, because I was too soft. I was too easy on all of my kids throughout their life. And it was one of the worst things I could have done. And I know you all do, really well trying to make sure he knows what's right and what's wrong and everything. But if he ends up getting caught, ends up getting in trouble with the marijuana or whatever, missing out on school, walk his butt back to school and say, we need to, somebody's picking on you, or if there's, any kind of bullying issues, or, maybe we need to go to the school and talk to their counselor. I don't know if you all do that. There's just, I think there's just got to be a wake-up call, and it's hard to know what that is, because constantly trying to figure out and work with it, and just pleading, and you've got to tell me, I don't know. It's just, I've been there and done that, and he's desperate for some type of validation, like John says. And honestly, he's getting everybody in a room. Everybody's like swarming him. And even though he acts like he hates it, that's kind of what he wants, because he is desperate for some type of attention, and he's getting it.
Mhm.
So I am so not qualified to deal with this, but I've been through it before, and it's just a hard place to be in. You know, if you give him too much validation for missing out on school, he'd be like, oh, I'll do that again. I got everybody, you know, giving me attention. So it's a tough place to be. And
Yeah, you're either
Well,
teaching or enabling.
Well,
Yeah.
I thank you for what you're saying, because, you know, sometimes I can go on and talk, and, you know, or I get interrupted, but I try to make the point that what I deal with on a regular basis that has me frustrated is the fact that I've tried since I've been here to have a relationship with Hayden and do a lot of things. I'm not saying
Yeah.
this because I think John's idea is not good. I think it is a great approach, but I've done all of this, and
Yeah.
I really truly believe that the lack of follow through and the ability to allow him to continue to do what he's doing, and in conjunction with everyone's afraid for Hayden to fall on his face, like you were saying. And these are the things that I'm saying will wake him up.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have to look like the bad guy to him
Yep.
if we all
Yeah.
did that. I wouldn't
Mhm.
have to be this guy, and I wouldn't have to be the one to be reprimanded by my wife and everyone else. And I wouldn't have to be looked at by Hayden like I am the only one that
Mhm.
will make sure and investigate and look and go the extra mile to make sure that he's being truthful to himself above anything. And that's the only thing I was trying to get to was that we talk about teamwork, we talk about evenly yoked, we talk about doing things the way we should, the way God wants us to, et cetera, and none of that. I don't care who's got the playbook, and I don't care what sport it is. If you've got one player doing it and the rest of them are going behind it and unraveling it, or allowing it to unravel in the long run,
Mhm.
what am I doing? I'm going up and down the court, and it doesn't make a difference.
Well, and
I
it's
truly
making,
believe, sorry, John, I
You're good.
truly believe that Misty, the brother, I guess Jamie's brother, you know,
How's it
from
going?
everything I remember from all the conversations,
What's that?
Lonnie's being undermined.
Yeah.
Jamie,
About
not
that
by
day.
you so
They
much,
had me
maybe in
come
the
down here
past,
to
but
get
not
the
now,
trailer
but he's being
because it was
undermined. I can
outlined,
almost
so I brought it
guarantee
back up
you
top,
that
and
there are things being
attention
said by
got-
Misty and
so
by
I
the
apologize.
brother about Lonnie, even if it's something like, "Phew, boy, I don't like him and I don't like the way he talks to you." All of that undermines Lonnie. Even if Lonnie was wrong, maybe in how he handled something, you never ever tell the child that unless it's detrimental, like, that was wrong. Let me deal with it. And then Lonnie needs to be the one to go to him and work that out. But I just have a feeling, because I've experienced it with my own kids. If he's being undermined in any form or fashion, the little bitty things is destroying how Hayden feels about Lonnie.
Yep.
Lonnie may have done some of that himself, by not handling things the right way. But I guarantee you, if everybody behind the scenes was saying, he loves you, dude, he's trying to help you, you may not like it, but he's doing it because there just has to be so much of it. It has to come from everybody involved. And if there's one person that is like the boat
Validating
situation, if
Hayden's
there's one
thoughts and
person
not
that's stabbing
mine.
holes in the boat, it's gonna sink. It just will not work.
Yeah.
So I just think that's going to have to be dealt with. And I hate to say it, but I really think, the mom is a big part of the issue.
Oh, yeah.
She wants to be mom, but she feels guilty. I'm the mom that's walked in guilt for many years, and I protected and covered up and did all of that because I wanted to make things right. And she is
Making it worse.
sinking the boat. She is
And she
sinking the
makes
boat.
me extremely upset because
Yeah.
her body language the other day in the room,
Yeah.
everything. Only reason why I came from the other side of the house into the room is because I asked Jamie to go upstairs, check. He's already agitated. He's already coming home for a reason. I already know my presence is going to make him more agitated. I simply said, please go upstairs, or don't let him run right up to his room. Check his bag, check his pockets, check everything. You know, he just stole his phone back, or an old one, or I can't keep up with what he's taking. And you know, he probably made some type of deal or did something. Nope, she calls him downstairs after he ran in the house, went right up to his room.
Mhm.
And so I'm literally thinking to myself, here we go. Tonight I'm gonna be with him, and I'm gonna be sitting in the living room, and he's only gonna want to be in his room, and I'm gonna smell a alarming odor of marijuana coming
Call the
from his
police.
bedroom.
Call the police.
But there's
I'm
the whole
serious.
thing.
Something's-
The very next day, Misty is like, no, Jane, they had a whole discussion. No, James, I'm not doing the police thing. I don't want to call the police. I don't want to this. I don't want to that.
Who gives her the right
I-
to tell you what you can and can't do?
There's too many chefs in the pot, and the soup's going to come out horrible.
Yeah.
I can't say it anymore.
Nobody can
I'm
stop
very
you, Lonnie.
frustrated.
Pick up your phone, call the police. I don't care what Misty says. I don't want to be cold about it,
Exact-
but you got to see it in the big picture. She's seeing it in the immediate.
The
Right,
thing
but I have
is
to
they're
be on the
probably
same
not
page
going
with
to
my
arrest
wife.
him.
Yeah, they're not going to arrest him.
I said they're
Right,
probably
but I
not
need-
going to arrest him, but you have an illegal substance in your house, and
You
I'm
get
the
it
mom
caught
that
there,
would have
you're
been
in
like
trouble.
dying.
Right, but I need
'Cause-
to be on the same page with my wife and whatever she's thinking before I do anything, because I've been warned several times. If I make a decision and do something and she didn't make the decision herself, then we're gonna have issues. It's been branded on me, so I know that, and
Yeah.
that's something that I gotta leave up to her. And honestly,
Yeah. So Jamie,
I
what's
wanted to
your
say
on
last
that
week, and
situation?
I fell asleep. I tried to say last week, I really don't even want. I've gotten to the point where I don't even want. I don't mind being a role model, and I don't mind showing him the word, and I don't mind working out with him and trying to have a relationship with him. But I'm getting to the point where I don't want nothing to do with child rearing. I'm getting to the point where I don't want to have children. We talked about doing that. I don't want to do none of that, because the team is not, it's not. And it's not the way I would see it done. And that's, we could talk about it till we're blue in the face, Jamie and I can, if we come up with something that we're going to do. So therefore, cut to the chase. I don't really want anything to do with any of that. But if it's cutting into my time with my wife, cutting into my days off every single week of my life in this family, and it's going to be paved. The way is going to be paved for him to be able to do it on a regular basis, and a blind's eye, or somewhat of a blind's eye, is going to go towards it. This is where I have a major, major issue.
Okay.
I don't want to see the kid go down the wrong path, but if we're not going to do the work behind it, or if we're not going to follow through and let him fall flat on his behind to learn something, because what we're doing, consequences, all this other stuff, and don't stick to them or make it possible for him to get around it. If that's not going to be repaired because you got too many people doing it, the whole thing is too thick to really make a change.
Let's hey, Lonnie, hold on to
Yeah,
that.
I mean, I'm sorry. I'm
You're
sorry
fine,
to
dude.
go
You're
off,
fine, dude. No, you're fine. I want to stop really quick because I want you to hold on to that. Bring that to us next week. And there's a reason. I want you guys to do what we've come up with already.
Mhm.
Now, Lonnie, that's your choice not to have kids. And quite frankly, if I was without kids and had a chance to have them in this day and age, forget it. However, I want you to understand something. God's put you in that role model position. And you might want to double check with God about some of those words, because you're in that position. And because you're in that position, he expects you to be a role model. Colossians
Right.
3:23.
And I don't have an issue with being a role model. I
Well-
just don't want I don't want to have something to do with, you know, the actual handling a situation when he does something wrong.
Well,
Because
I don't want to keep interrupting you, Lonnie. That's got to be resolved. We got to figure out, is Misty for you guys or against you? Flat out, because if she's going to be for you, then she needs to get on the same page with you and stop undermining you guys, because every time you do, not you, every time she does, it makes you all look weak. Every single time. You're either teaching him a lesson or you're enabling him to continue to make bad choices. It's not in the middle. It's one or the other. She's enabling, you guys are trying to teach. We have a problem. And I'm not going to keep going because I've got my own thoughts, but I am going to control the tongue.
that's what I'm doing, because it's not my place. I'm not her relative. I'm her relative through marriage.
But are you
I'm
guys
not her
guardians
relative.
of Hayden or not?
We are, but I can't,
Legal?
John, I can't make, no, neither one of us are. His grandmother is.
Okay,
And
where's
she
grandma?
doesn't have anything. Florida.
Well, no wonder the kid, oh my goodness, bless his
This
heart.
poor kid. His grandma's
But
abandoning him.
Jamie-
His mom's abandoning him. He's got you two who aren't
Well,
parents.
his grandmother, Jamie, has been taking care of him since he was extremely young, like
Yeah.
infant.
18
And his
months old
mother
is when
has the control legally and all of that. And she's made it difficult many times. And, you know, now she's in Florida. But
Yeah, that's a
Hayden
tough
doesn't know.
situation.
Yeah, Hayden
Hayden
does not
doesn't know
that
about
we don't
that.
have
Yeah.
legal and physical custody of him. He doesn't know that.
Okay,
He
could
doesn't
we-
know.
No, he doesn't. He
Okay.
thinks that we are.
So if
his
there's a
legal-
medical emergency, who has the
She
rights
can
to
take
do
him to the
anything?
doctors. Jamie
Well, I'm
can
just
take him
saying,
to
if
the
he's in
doctors.
if you
Yeah.
have a medical emergency and somebody has to make a decision, you know.
I do have the right to do that. I'm listed on the custody paperwork as another legal
Okay.
custodian. However, as
Yeah.
far as physical custody goes, he's technically supposed to be with my mom. But when she took him, it was a really tough situation. Long story short, he was 18 months old. Tristan was 28 months old. And I said, Mom, I want him. I don't want you to have to do this. The issue was my sister did not trust me at all at that point because I was the one who got her arrested. She went to jail because of me, because I felt it was the only way that my sister's life was going to be saved. She was into heroin, etc. So long story short, you know, my mom and Misty made an agreement that Hayden could live with me, but she promised my sister she would never allow me to have physical custody of Hayden, which is still literally the same. Almost 15, 13 years later, I've had him since he was 18 months old, and I'm still not physically his guardian because of that promise to each other. And my mom and I actually just had a huge argument about this when we moved to Mexico, because she had to sign paperwork saying that Hayden physically lives with me and that he is going to be going to our school district here, because obviously, I'm not Hayden's mother. So when we moved here,
Yep.
it was this big thing where my mom was like, if I sign this paperwork, I'm basically giving you physical custody. And I'm like, if you don't sign this paperwork, then are you going to bring Hayden with you to Florida and he's going to move with you? Because you don't really have an option, do you?
Yeah.
I've had him since he was a baby.
Yeah.
This is absolutely ridiculous. Why are you worried about a promise that you made Misty when she wasn't even of sound mind, when I've been there 100% of the time for him? Why are your I just don't understand. It's just so backwards, some of the thinking that's been involved in these situations. And it really does get very exasperating for me and Lonnie when we feel like, we are the ones that are holding up the household, actually taking care of both of the kids financially, spiritually, physically, all the things. And somehow my sister thinks that she still deserves to have an opinion just because she's his mom. Well, I mean, she's been here for the past couple of years. She has been a little bit more involved, but my sister still has issues to work through. She still very much puts men first before Hayden, and does not. We just had an argument about this today. today we had an argument about this because she didn't like the way that Lonnie talked to Hayden the other day. She felt that Lonnie was a little bit too harsh, and I will be 100% transparent here. I don't agree with everything that Lonnie has said tonight. I do think that I try really hard with the follow through, and I'm not perfect. That definitely is true, but I have really worked hard on making sure that he's really respected, that his role is very respected, and with especially with like my brothers, my sister, like my brother and I just had a conversation tonight about how I'm not going to in any way, shape, or form jeopardize my marriage to try to make one of my siblings happy.
Good for you.
Mm-mm.
I'm
Good
not
for
gonna
you.
do that.
What do you
And
think
I'm not-
about that, Lonnie?
Oh, I think that's great. And I do agree with her. Yes, she does. Yes, she has been doing that, but that's
Good.
not what I didn't say anything about that.
No, I know.
I'm talking
No, no,
right.
Don't
Well,
go
I'm,
off on a
I'm,
rabbit
I'm,
trail.
no,
He's responding to her, I think, is what he's saying.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. No, I got all your frustrations, but you guys, when I first met you, you're ready to leave. And here we are, what, 2 months later, and I just heard your wife say she's not doing anything to jeopardize her marriage, which is exactly the instructions I gave you. You have to build and measure everything against what God's joined together, let no man separate.
exactly. I'm really
now-
trying to make that a
Yes,
priority.
And now the siblings are all of a sudden not holding the weight they once had, which is an immense amount of respect for her husband. That's why I was like, look at that, Lonnie. Hey, baby
yes,
steps,
I
right?
agree with you.
An overnighter
Yes.
is not going to happen.
And
That's
you
a-
know, my brother Bobby, he just got newly engaged to his girlfriend. He lives upstairs with the baby in their apartment. He 100% agreed with me. He's like, I think that's absolutely what you
Well-
should do, and I'm going to do the same thing between me and Ashley. You
All
need
right.
to put you guys first, 100%.
That's
He
right.
was completely on board with that, and he said too, you know that I love Lonnie. I think that he's a great dude. He's been there 100%, and now I think Bobby's got a newfound respect for Lonnie because he's come into a relationship with his fiance who has a 1-year-old baby,
Mhm,
and it's not his
Mhm.
baby.
mhm.
It is not his baby, you know. So he's really seeing like how much of a sacrifice it is to suddenly decide that you want to take the lead and be responsible for, you know, this little life that you didn't even create. And he didn't have to step up to that, but I think he sees like how much time, energy, effort. No one
Mhm.
can say on this planet that Lonnie has not completely devoted himself 100% to our family. He has. He's made all the sacrifices. He absolutely takes care of us and will do anything for us. You know, I mean, he's not the only thing that I think personally for myself or in God's word or biblically or whatever that I think Lonnie needs to work on. And he will tell you that I've told this a million times. I've told him this a million times. I have said to him, if you could figure out how to be more patient and diplomatic, I believe he could be the president of the United States. That's how much I believe in my husband. I have told him that. I believe you could be the president. I believe you could lead anybody on this earth if you could figure out simply how to just navigate that temper. That's it. That's
Okay.
all because he's so intelligent. He's so, you know, he's so intuitive. He really, really, he will remember the details from an argument or a situation that was 16 years ago. You know, I mean,
Mhm.
he's so sharp with things, but he definitely does. He says he's not a grudge holder at all, but if he doesn't feel that there was like forgiveness given or that he was seen in a negative light in that way, like his situation with Hayden, it is very difficult for him to like extend the olive branch. He does not. I think it's kind of one of those things where like I don't know if he would agree or disagree or get upset with me for saying this, Lonnie. I don't know, but I think that sometimes he has this like great fear of rejection when he's being humble. Like, you know, the example of you saying, you know, Lonnie, if Hayden says, no, I don't want to work out with you, it's okay.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to share my personal thoughts and my mind and my emotions with you right now. I could tell that hurt Lonnie's feelings. He wants to, be able to be there for Hayden, but he can't force it. The way he acted in our bedroom, he was not mean or like yelling at Hayden. Misty was like, he yelled at Hayden. He didn't yell at Hayden at all. I will tell you when Lonnie yells. He didn't yell that day. He did not yell at him. He just was kind of trying to be like, you will tell us a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, not exactly like that, but that's how Hayden felt, is like, you can't force me to share my feelings with you. And that's
Well,
it.
Right, and
That's
I
literally-
didn't want him to share his feelings with me. I said, you have to let somebody know something. It cannot go both ways, because you cannot stay here, stay up in your room, be left alone, and all of that. Because everything was no. I'm not going with you. I don't want to. I want to go to my room. What is wrong with that? I want to do this. I want to do that. And I'm like, that can't be possible, bud, because let's look at the situation. And he challenged me. So I would say, well, this is the reason why. And let me ask you a question. You know, did these certain things happen? And he'd get frustrated, and Misty would speak for him. So you're just not feeling that great today, right, bud? So you're this and
putting
that,
words in his
right?
mouth.
So basically it's just this, right? And I kept my composure, but inside I was trembling, because I am so I'm so tired of there's lack of order, lack of accountability, and he's gonna push till he gets what he wants, and every single time it falls into place for him because of like Jamie's saying, she's doing a lot better, but and she's not perfect. So human error, or she just forgot, or she left it open for him to get to it, or she changed it a little bit, or she said, yeah, sure you can, bud, as long as you're this. And he took full advantage of it, or Misty paved the way. And it's every day. And the very biggest problem is I hear it before I go to bed. I hear about it when I wake up. I hear about it while I'm at work. I can't escape it for a minute of the day about what Hayden's doing, and all I see is the possibility for him to do it. And where does that possibility lie? And no one, except for Jamie, is trying to make changes, falls short sometimes accidentally, or feels for him and gives him a little inch, and he takes a mile. And Misty is just literally just, sure, bud, sure, bud, sure, bud, yeah, bud, sure, bud, yeah, bud. Or she didn't, and she's mad, so she screams at him and says, I never told you that. But then leaves her door open for him to have access to money, leaves her door open for him to go up there and do whatever he's doing, goes and picks him up and buys him whatever he wants, and then dumps him off back at home, and it's hasta la bye-bye.
Hasta la bye-bye.
And I'm like, okay, well, there goes my whole day. I had things planned. I have to do this, this, and this. I can't leave him alone. He's refusing to go. He has nothing but an attitude. I can't.
Here's
It's
an
hard.
idea.
It's so hard.
Here's a secondary idea that you guys might want to consider. It's almost 6:30, by the way, and I'm going to jump off here in the next 5 minutes unless there's something else you guys need. But I want to encourage you again, Johnny, Lonnie, and John. Woo! John, here's Johnny. All right, Lonnie. Some of us are tired. I'm going to blame it on that.
Oh, I feel you.
Mindset. When you approach Hayden, count on him saying no. Walk in there with the mindset that he's going to say no. Let me tell you a story about mindset and how I handled a particular situation. I met Tanya, and I'm not saying it because she's on here. You could record anything from outside these walls with her not around, and my most prominent comment is she's an absolute doll. And see, my wife has it all. She's quirky. She's a little ditzy. She's adorable. She's cute. She's beautiful, and she's sexy. She got it all. Well, that makes it hard for a man who's just dating. And I was determined, and I'm not trying to get graphic or anything, but I'm making a point. I said it in my mind long before. Boundaries. Keep your
Mhm.
boundaries. And
Mhm.
we dated literally 8 months. There's a whole story behind that, but 8 months from the day we committed and then the day we got married, and it succeeded. And it's because in my head, know your boundaries. Do not let things get out of hand. Period. Respect that woman. You heard her. She doesn't trust
Mhm.
men. I knew this. I'm like, respect her. And that
Mhm.
was accomplished because the first time anything ever happened was August 18th, 2018. That's the day we got married, just so you know. So I say that to you, Lonnie. So when you walk into Hayden, remember, you said that you've tried all of that. Have you ever tried asking him for advice to teach you something? Because that gives him a little bit of worth. There's something that he has that you're asking for help with. It's not often you see a dad, a man, or any male figure ask for help from somebody that much younger. That's kind of the twist that I think is a possibility that if he says no, just say, okay, that's cool. But if you change your mind, I'm definitely interested in being taught how to do some of that stuff that you're doing. And you know what? He might say no, but boy, he's going to think about it. So don't take it personal. Just be ready. And then if he says yes, do a backflip without your hands, just flip. Because I know you can do it.
Okay.
Jamie said you could. She's
Okay.
It must have been a dream. I can't remember. But anyway, something about you flipping. And just be ready for
Probably
that. But
flipping out.
yeah, absolutely. And then
Mhm.
follow
Probably
up.
told you that.
Flipping out, yep.
But if he says yes, if he says, okay, we can do that. Next question. Well, when can we do it? Get an answer. When?
Mhm.
And then follow up. Because hey, nothing else has worked, right?
Right.
I just so you guys know, we have a home gym. Like he works out every day at our house. So
Oh,
this
that's
is
cool.
definitely an achievable goal.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm
Oh.
jealous, so. Oh,
So
that's
any
awesome.
final remarks, comments? I know we've got a long way to go, but baby steps.
No, I think so.
No, I'm good.
All right. What's your assignment, Jamie?
I need to keep us on track of finding the verses and diving into the Bible for some confident building verses for Hayden.
Okay.
Good job.
And of course, we got Lonnie. I just told him his answer. That's cheating, Lonnie.
I know. Hey, how you doing, Roxanne?
I'm doing fine. How are you? I'm not Roxanne. I'm John. I don't really appreciate that. Just because I wore a wig one night doesn't mean you could call me a girl's name.
Behave, John Helton.
That's
Are
no
you guys
fun.
you guys feeling pretty good about our next steps in approaching this?
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
complicated, I know. I can only imagine. I mean, I'm getting over here, my blood pressure's up, and I can only imagine what you all are feeling. I'm like, oh, bless their hearts. But just so you know, and it's got to be way more complicated when it's not your child. But I went through it with my child, and she's doing great now. Life is normal. She's 21.
That's great to hear.
She's struggling to figure out what she wants to do with her life, and she's frustrated with that and everything, but she's okay. And
That's great to hear.
I did not ever think that she would ever emotionally, she still struggles. There's a long history of stuff emotionally, but she's okay. And I'm very proud of her, and we are close. And but a big part of it was putting it in God's hands and saying, yes, I know you have to take control and you have to make sure he's doing what's right in your home, but you just say, God, I'm putting this in your hands, and cry out to him and say, I need to know exactly what I need to do. And he may say, be still and know that I am God, and just breathe. And then, it's
Yeah.
difficult. I had to let go a little bit. I will not say that I let go of the reins completely. When John wasn't looking, I'd pick them back up. But we got through it, and John prayed and he supported me, and I got mad at him for telling me, Tanya, you need to, he had to be very sensitive of how he dealt with me on that. So, because I was very defensive and very protective, and I am a lioness when it comes to my children, and I dealt with a lot of guilt and a lot of things. So I feel your pain, and I'm praying for you.
Thank you.
Right, John.
Hi.
You can finish up. I'm gonna go do a few things before it's time for class.
Okay.
So, okay, I'll see you all if you're coming to Marital Monkey. Okay, guys.
Okay.
All right.
Lonnie, you okay over there, buddy?
I think he's at work.
Okay.
I think you muted us.
Yeah. He probably got tired of hearing me.
No.
Yeah, I know he's in a tough position.
Mhm.
Not blood relative, not the real dad. That makes it really difficult. So I admire the dude. You got yourself a good one, it sounds like, Jamie.
Yeah, he is a good one. He
Yeah, he wants to-
definitely is.
Yeah. I mean, everything I've gathered, and I told him a couple weeks ago, I can still hear some of his hurt. Just like my best friend Dave, I can still hear, because I'm around him a lot more, obviously. And he says things and you can tell it's still there. He was abused as a kid.
Mhm.
And I can hear it out of Lonnie. And which is
Oh, yeah.
probably why he's really sensitive if there's a fear of rejection. And
Mhm.
and I've been rejected. I don't know that anybody on this planet hasn't been. But the more we can settle in our minds that God did not reject us, and that's the ultimate say so. I think that's a pretty good
Yep,
deal.
that's so true.
So that's where we have to stay focused. Like I'll say this, I'll shut up because I want to go and get me some coffee and try to take a mental breather because I've been pretty
Go
adamant that
going.
yeah, but years and years, say 15 years ago, I really struggled with self-esteem. I did pretty much my whole life, to the point where you would play the guilt trip and all of that. And I still do it kind of fun, but at the same time, I still have some of that insecurity in me. And I remember standing in my bedroom one day and I messed up something. And in my mind, I was like, of course you screwed it up. You screw up everything.
Aw, yeah.
You're a failure, that type of thing. And I literally out loud in the bedroom by myself said, no joke, Satan, you're a liar and I'm not listening to you. And it took years for that thought to even remotely come back to me. And I was like,
That's
wow,
wonderful.
that worked. But see, I spoke it out, called him out, and exposed the darkness. Well,
I want Hayden to do that too. That's great.
yes, there you go. That's a great idea, Jamie. John 8:44 talks about the devil's a
Okay.
liar. That's a verse that I don't know if you should spring it on him now, but if he gets caught lying or whatever, say, do you realize who you imitate when you tell us a lie? You're taking on the very nature of Satan. We don't want that for you. That's something down the road. But anyway, so I spoke it out, called Satan a liar. And it was like, dang, he caught me. And so then, of course, the more I grew in the word, your feelings try to take over. But now I have learned how to quote the word when it contradicts what's going on in my mind. You screwed up. You're such a failure. Did God say that? No, he didn't say that. Well, then it can't be true.
That's right.
And that's how I've combated those thoughts trying to come back. So that was a very valuable lesson, because sometimes I do feel like a failure, but God says I'm not. So I have to believe him instead of me.
Yep, that's right. It's what we all need to do. I agree.
Yeah. That's kind of tonight's Marital Monkey lesson is going to be a little bit out of the box, not normal. But there's a reason for it. You'll see it when, are you guys coming? I guess you are. Lonnie said you were.
Yes,
Hi, Lonnie.
yes.
All right,
Hi.
cool. I don't know if you,
apologize for that brief intermission. I could hear everything you were saying.
okay, no, dude, you don't have to apologize. That's not necessary, but are you okay, Lonnie?
Yeah. I'm good.
Okay. You sure? That didn't convince me.
Well, I got my galoshes and my raincoat on to weather the storm. That's
Okay.
all I can do right now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, now you got a couple of people in another country, because we're in the United States and you guys are in Mexico. That's kind of we're standing beside you guys, and I pray for you guys every day. And I pray for Hayden, and I pray for Tristan. And I'm praying for a major miracle. And it's just like I told Jamie before I ever met you, Lonnie, we're not letting Satan have this marriage. Well, now we're turning that. We're not letting Satan have Tristan or Hayden. Those boys are going to be covered under prayer from all of us. So,
Thank you so
Well,
much.
thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
See you in a
So,
little bit.
huh? Yeah, see
I
me in a
said we'll
little
see
bit.
you in a little bit.
I'll almost see you guys in a little bit.
Yeah.
Come on, Lonnie. All right.
What's that?
That was you were supposed to laugh at that.
At you not hearing her?
No, I said I'll almost see you guys in a little bit.
Right.
Almost see. Okay. No, don't humor me. I'm gonna grow hair just so I don't look like you like I do now. Hurt my feelings, man. I don't want to look like you like I do. I'm gonna have to grow some hair. That's the only thing I can think of that'll separate us.
Don't do that. Bald is in.
All right.
Bald is in.
All right. Bye, guys.
I'll see you guys at 7, maybe.
Okay.
See you. Okay.
Bye.
Bye.